Haunted by sinister forces, 7 forbidden rules keeping me alive as a fire lookout in Alberta. Nora Thompson felt the weight of the wilderness pressing in on her. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, whispering secrets she never wanted to hear. The isolation of her lookout tower in Alberta was both a refuge and a prison. She had taken this job to escape her crumbling life back in the small Midwestern town, but now the haunting silence felt like a predator stalking its prey. Every night, she was gripped by an unsettling dread that chased away her fleeting moments of peace. The chaos she escaped clawed at her heart during the hours of twilight. Her brother, once a star athlete, was now entwined in a gang. Her parents' once happy marriage crackled like dry leaves in an autumn wind. Phone calls from back home brought only shadows of despair, tethering her to memories she wanted to fade. Alone and anxious, she often scanned the horizon to catch a glimpse of smoke, her only reassurance, yet every shadow behind the trees felt heavy, a weight she could not shake off. What unsettled her most were the noises that crept in as night fell. Distant cries echoed across the vastness, a sound that formed a knot in her stomach. It wasn't the sound of nature, it was something else. The authorities dismissed her fears, claiming it was just bears prowling. But nearly every night, she'd hear the laughter, a chilling, mocking laughter that danced between the trees, sending shivers up her spine. That laugh shouldn't exist in these mountains. Something or someone was waiting. One evening, draped in the starry night, she stumbled upon an old, weather-beaten journal, neglected and half-buried under a mass of pine needles. As she cracked it open, she felt the cold breath of betrayal blow through the ink-stained pages. Cryptic rules scrawled in frantic handwriting told her the unthinkable: never trust the rustle of leaves after dark. It sent her pulse racing. She felt a connection, a horrific knot pulled taut inside her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The following night, the forest transformed into a graveyard of silence. Nora felt the absence of wildlife, the rustling of deer herds, the chatter of squirrels. They were gone, evaporated into thin air, just like the warmth of family she once knew. A phantom predator, they whispered in town, but the truth was far more terrifying, a malevolence lurking just beneath the surface. She flicked off her flashlight, engulfing herself in darkness. Fear clamped around her heart as she recalled the journal's next rule: if you hear laughter in the woods, it has already chosen you. Before dawn could break her confinement, a malevolent chill slithered through her tower. The radio crackled alive with desperate voices, murmuring for help. It was followed by that disquieting laugh, clear and mocking, as if mocking her very existence. She huddled, pulse racing, as shadows curled in the corners of her tower and whispered her name. Something watched from the darkness, something she had tried to escape but which now embraced her as one of its own. Nora knew she was not just observing the wilderness. She was ensnared in a game, and she couldn't even discern the rules. As a knock echoed against the wooden pane of her lookout tower, the reality sank and twisted deeper. Something had come for her. In the stillness, fear took root. As darkness loomed closer, she felt a deeper truth collide within her. Survival meant walking paths she'd never imagined. Unseen but palpable, something waited just outside, poised to awaken the very nightmares of childhood. The knock reverberated like a death toll, resonating in the pit of Nora's stomach. She froze, mind racing, hearing only the echo of her own breathing and the rustling of the forest that now felt alive with sinister intent. She reminded herself of the first rule: stay vigilant. But the laughter, sweet and dissonant, snaked around her. It was closer, close enough to weave in and out of her thoughts, making each breath feel like a betrayal. With trembling hands, she gripped her flashlight, that beam of weak assurance. Nora hesitated, knowing she should remain hidden, but the pull of curiosity and terror was a potent mix that pushed her towards the door. What was waiting? What waited for her on the other side? The radio crackled again, its static peppered with frantic cries. "Please! We need a pause," echoed, then it was drowned by that laughter, a sound tinged with an agony that seemed not just to echo in the trees but to vibrate through her very bones. A cold sweat broke out on her forehead. "Stop it!" She shouted into the silence, hoping her voice would shatter the illusion of safety the tower had once provided. But the forest seemed to sigh, responding in unnerving tranquility. Then, she heard it, a soft, deliberate shuffle beneath the lookout, the crunch of leaves that clawed at her sanity, slicing through the last bit of her resolve. Glancing through a narrow gap in her tower's wooden slats, Nora fought to keep her breathing steady. The night was a cloak, something waiting to envelop her, make her part of its dark tableau. A shadow slinked past beneath her, tall and angular against the whitewashed moonlight. Her heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat of warning, urging her to run, yet her feet felt like roots embedded in the ground. What lurked in the dark? Had she unwittingly invited it with her fears? Suddenly, a loud bang jolted her. The footsteps quickened, racing beneath her once secure tower, circling like a predator. The shadows twisted around, almost reaching for her. In that moment, every horror story she had ever dismissed came surging back. Shadows were real, dark corners concealed more than just the ordinary, something ancient breathed beneath the earth. Then, she spotted it, a figure, gaunt and festering in the illumination of the moon. But it wasn't just one, there were more, half-seen, their movements dripping with unnatural grace. They shifted like fog, faces obscured but eyes glinting with a horrifying hunger that sent shock waves of cold dread through her. Nora's brain screamed to flee to safety, but all she could do was watch as they danced on the fringes of her sanity. Her fingers pressed against the wall, nails digging into the wood as she clung to her last remnant of courage. She remembered the journal, its rules etched with bitter warnings. Did she dare break the last rule? A breath caught in her throat as she recalled the next entry: "Do not let them see you show fear." But it was too late, her thoughts were laid bare. Suddenly, their laughter evolved into sinister whispers that curled around her, promising to unravel her. "Join us," they chanted, their voices dripping with a deadly sweetness. In that moment, she felt the forest itself converge, the trees inching closer, their branches clawing at her tower. They were alive, an audience to her collapse, waiting for her to fall. As the air grew thick with dread, another noise slithered into her consciousness, a frenzied tapping at the bottom of the tower, like nails scratching against wood. It was someone or something trying to climb. Nora's heart raced. Would they get inside? Would the darkness consume her? Fighting against hope and despair, she turned back to the radio, desperate to reach out to anyone, anywhere. Each flicker of static felt like a countdown. "Please, someone, anyone, help me." As the whispers crescendoed, so too did her courage. She wouldn't simply wait. Panic surged, and she hurled open the door to the darkness. But when she screamed, she realized the only thing echoing back was her own voice, trapped in the moment before the darkness closed in. What would happen next? Was it too late to escape, or had she become another lost soul, forever entangled in the fool's errand of survival? Nora stumbled out into the night, the door creaking open like a coffin lid. The glimpse of the forest beneath her was more of a dark void than an escape route. The air was thick, suffocating, pulling at her senses. She gripped the flashlight tighter, its beam flickering ominously, barely cutting through the darkness that hung like a shroud. The whispers surged around her, sound melting in and out of her awareness. "Join us," beckoned, weaving through the trees and reorganizing themselves into laughter that echoed her worst nightmares. She moved, driven more by instinct than reason, slipping off the tower's creaking wooden steps. Whatever she had been prepared for, this was no plan. Each step felt like walking on glass, a crunch beneath her feet. Was it the leaves? Or something more sinister, something that wanted to trip her, to keep her there? The shadows danced in the periphery of her vision, flickering and multiplying, becoming bolder. She couldn't look back. The fear of what she might see was heavier than any physical threat. Ahead, the path twisted between looming trees, gnarled and bent as if they were trying to reach for her. The forest felt sentient, alive with a throbbing pulse that matched her racing heart. At any moment, she expected to feel ghostly fingers tugging at her clothes or swatting at her ankles. Suddenly, from behind a cluster of dense foliage, a low growl rolled through the air like thunder. Something large and feral shifted among the underbrush, its breath misty and jagged. Nora panicked, her thoughts spiraling as she turned to run. Her feet picked up speed, sloshing through patches of damp earth. Ignoring the thorns that clawed at her skin, she burst into a small clearing where the moonlight flickered, illuminating a rock formation that jutted out at odd angles. Breathless, she darted behind it, her stomach knotting at the prospect of being discovered. Should she climb it? Hide beneath? The growling stopped, replaced by the unsettling silence that made her skin crawl. She could feel eyes watching her, poking through the shrubs, feeding off her fear. Then came a voice, sickly sweet and eerily familiar. "We missed you, Nora. Don't you want to play?" The words slipped into her ears like honey, warm yet wrapped in an undercurrent of malice. It resonated with something within her, an echo of what she feared most, the voice sewn into her past transgressions. "Leave me alone," she shouted, her indignation tinged with terror. From the dark, more figures emerged, gliding like shadows, their faces masked but brilliantly illuminated by the light of the moon. They circled her, an unholy congregation singing a morbid hymn, the tune crawling beneath her skin. "Remember the rules?" They chanted in unison, and her heart sank with recognition. The journal rules rolled through her mind like an endless mantra. Rule number 2, never go out after dark. A sensation mimicking fingers squeezed around her throat, strength abandoned her as she pressed herself against the cold rock, but there was nowhere to retreat. "What do you want?" she gasped, their laughter merging with echoing whispers, consuming her. "We want you to stay." It swirled around her, echoing in her mind until she wanted to scream. In that twisted moment, her resolve splintered. They were weaving something new, an invitation that spoke of eternal fear and despair. Nora stepped back, her own mind battling with the seductive call to join their dance, call it survival. But was she really fighting? Was survival worth the cost? The ground shifted beneath her feet, and she lost her balance. She stumbled down the hill, falling into the abyss of darkness, a cacophony of laughter erupting as gravity took hold. And in that stillness, a distant cry radiated through the trees, another desperate appeal for help, punctuating the laughter like a funeral dirge. "Who's there?" she whispered, her heart pounding against silence again, her breath a leap of faith into the void. The forest held its breath, waiting for her answer. And she realized the cursed truth: this night would demand a sacrifice. What awaited her beneath the twisted branches? Was she truly alone, or just a part of their wicked symphony? Nora tumbled down, the earth clawing at her back, dragging her further into the suffocating void. She landed hard, gasping, her pulse racing like a wild animal. Moans and whispers wrapped around her, drowning out her thoughts, urging her to give in, to join the charade. The flicker of her flashlight lay a few feet away, its beam sputtering like her fading courage. She crawled toward it, fingertips brushing against the cool, hard ground. The weight of terror hung heavily in the air, thick enough to choke. Shadows morphed into monstrous shapes, slithering into the corners of her vision before vanishing with an unsettling swiftness. "Come play with us, Nora." The voice echoed again, drawing closer, layered with mirth and malice. She shivered, a chill racing down her spine as she fumbled for the flashlight, the beam flickering uncertainly. Shadows circled like vultures, hungry and predatory, anticipating her next move. At last, she gripped the flashlight, turning it on. The beam shot out, cutting through the darkness, revealing a twisted mass of roots and rocks. She scanned the clearing, heart thudding in her chest, searching for an escape route. The figures were still there, growing bolder, stepping out from between the trees. They wore smiles that twisted their features into grotesque masks, eyes glinting with a hunger that made Nora's stomach turn. "Don't you remember the first rule?" one figure asked, tilting their head with an unnatural twist. "Never stray from the path." "Shut up!" she screamed, her voice shattering the tense silence, shaking with fear and defiance. She could feel her sanity hinging on the precipice. She needed to focus. As if responding to her outburst, the forest trembled around her, a subtle shift, a dark murmur rolling through the leaves. The figures paused, slight uncertainty flickering across their faces. Had she managed to fracture their spell? In that brief moment, she bolted, scrambling to her feet, aiming for the direction the laughter had faded. Twigs snapped underfoot, scratching at her ankles as she sprinted through the thickening darkness. A relief washed over her when the tree leaned thin. She could see another clearing ahead, moonlight pooling like a ghostly beacon. She rushed forward, but a sudden, fierce rustle from behind sent her skidding to a stop. She turned, flashlight wavering in her grip, illuminating a clawed hand emerging from the underbrush. Panic surged. They were coming closer. Flashes of her life raced through her mind, the warnings, the signs she had dismissed, the journal pages that spoke of dark rituals. Had she unwittingly become a player in their ominous game? "Why don't we join forces?" another figure rasped with a smile. "We can offer you everything you ever wanted. Power. Acceptance. You'll never be alone again." Nora shook her head, backing away. "I don't want anything from you," she shouted, defiance rising in her throat. Didn't they see? These were lies, sweetened promises draped in shadows. The darkness thickened and roared, responding to her resistance. Gnarled trees creaked, their branches shifting like skeletal fingers, reaching out to trap her. Just as she thought she would be ensnared, the laughter halted abruptly, replaced by a deafening silence. The figures halted as if frozen in time, their eyes glimmering with anticipation. Nora felt the forest holding its breath, waiting for her next move. In that charged moment of stillness, her heart thudded furiously. Maybe she had a chance. Maybe. A shrill scream pierced the night, echoing through the trees, a voice that felt painfully familiar. The fear pulsed in her veins, thrumming like a desperate drum. "Mom?" she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. What awaited her in the cradle of darkness? Was it really her mother, or merely another whisper from the abyss? The figures shifted, swaying slightly, ready to pounce. All Nora knew was that this descent demanded answers and, perhaps, a reckoning. The question hollowed in her heart: could she uncover the truth before it consumed her? Nora's heart raced as the scream reverberated through the void, a haunting melody echoing in the caverns of her mind. The figures curled their lips into tight, unsettling smiles, waiting for the horror to unfold. The forest floor felt alive beneath her fingertips, crawling with unseen things, while twisted roots curled menacingly around her legs. "Mom!" she screamed again, the fear igniting a spark of desperate hope. If there was any chance of finding her, any chance at redemption, she had to push through. The faces of the figures shifted, their smiles slipping for a moment, revealing jagged teeth that glimmered like blades. One of them stepped forward, a voice syrupy and thick. "You'll find her if you choose to come with us. You know the rules, Nora. Follow us, and the truth will be revealed." Nora could barely think. The air hung thick with dread, her mind wrestling with the cloying whispers that floated around her like fog. What if they were lying? What if her mother was beyond saving, and this was just another trap to ensnare her? She had to hold on to the fragile thread of her will. "No, no," she gasped. "I will find her myself." With a surge of defiance, Nora turned and ran, plunging deeper into the shadows, her flashlight cutting through the blackness like a sword. The laughter resumed, echoing mockingly, but she pushed it aside, allowing the primal instinct of survival to guide her. "Where are you?" she shouted into the abyss, barely able to hear her own voice over the laughter that crescendoed into madness. As she ran, branches sliced against her skin like claws. She was running blind, the brush of the cold night air striking her face like icy daggers. Every second felt like an eternity as she zigzagged through the looming trees. Suddenly, she stumbled into a small clearing, moonlight spilling over the ground like spilled milk. Her breath trembled as she caught her reflection in the bark of an ancient tree. It was distorted, warped like she was two different people fighting for control. Panic burbled in her throat. Was that how they saw her? Then, quiet returned, settling heavily in the air. It felt wrong, too serene. The thrilling pulse of fright was replaced by alert expectation as she scanned the clearing. "Mom!" Nora called, the word reverberating in the silence. The only reply was the rustling leaves' gentle mockery, that S when she noticed it, a dark path, covered in shadows, winding deeper into the heart of the forest. The memory of her mother's laugh danced at the fringes of her mind, tugging her toward it. Summoning every ounce of courage, she stepped onto the path, each footfall awakening the shadowy figures that had been watching from a distance. The air grew colder, it felt tangible, wrapping around her throat like a noose. "Join us, Nora," they whispered in unison, their voices weaving together in a twisted lullaby. "You must choose." She hesitated, dread anchoring her to the spot. Her mother's scream had been this way. But what if it was another trap, designed to ensnare her further? As she gazed into the darkened pathway, she heard it again, another scream, sharper and more desperate. "Mom!" Nora called, and before she could think better of it, she plunged forward, her flashlight bouncing wildly in front of her. Branches clawed at her arms, pulling her back, but she pushed on, driven by the sharp hope of family still echoing in her heart. But as she rounded a bend, the air thickened with an oppressive presence, snuffing out her light. Suddenly, she stood face to face with a figure clad in shadows, and behind it, the silhouette of a woman, eyes wide, mouth trapped in a silent scream. Nora's breath caught. Could it be? "Only one rule remains, little girl," the figure hissed, grinning wider. "To save her, you must sacrifice what you hold most dear." Nora felt her heart drop. Sacrifice? What did that mean? Her mind raced. What would she have to give up? The answer danced just out of reach, and as the darkness closed in, she realized she was about to uncover something far more horrific than she could have ever imagined. What would sacrificing her freedom mean? Would she have the strength to face it? The whispers swelled, pulling her down deeper into the secrets, deeper into the darkness. What awaited her next? Nora's heart thudded in her chest like a drum, drowning out the whispers that curled around her. The shadows shifted, and the figure loomed larger, a mass of night and regret, its smile stretching impossibly wide, revealing rows of grimy teeth. "Do you love her enough?" it challenged, the words dripping with mockery. Nora felt the weight of its gaze pierce through her, sparking memories that turned her insides cold. Her mother, with her warm smile and gentle touch, now felt like a ghost behind this wall of darkness. "Please, I will do anything," she cried, desperation making her voice tremble. Every breath felt like a burden, each second a painful drip of time. The figure tilted its head, studying her. "Anything?" it purred, as if tasting the word, savoring its implications. "Then you must understand. To save her, you might lose what keeps you alive. Will you dare? Just tell me what to do." The words spilled out of her, a raw plea seeping into the stillness of the woods. She stepped closer, her feet sinking into the damp earth, and the pressure from the shadows tugged at her, urging her to back away. It raised a hand, long fingers outstretched like withered branches. "Then listen closely." The air crackled as it spoke, clawing at the insides of her mind. "First, you must offer a memory, one you'd rather forget. Next, you shall surrender a piece of your heart, a fragment pure and true. Only then might she be saved." Each sentence rang like a death knell in her ears, striking chords of raging abandon. A memory? A fragment of her heart? It felt impossible, but the thought of her mother, trapped and suffering, forced a determination deep within her. The laughter of the shadowy figures fluttered around her like crows, taunting her. "Hurry, hurry," they chanted, the power of their voices rising in a manic chorus. "Time is dwindling." Nora squeezed her eyes shut, searching through the vault of her life, trying to find what she feared would be ripped from her. Fragments of laughter, moments of joy, the first time she rode a bike, the sweet sense of her childhood. No. Not my childhood, but then she saw it, the day her dad left, the night filled with shouts and a slamming door, her heart cracking open like a fragile eggshell. "Would you offer that?" The figure pressed, its voice now dripping with hope. "That pain? That longing for a love never returned?" She nodded, the resolve swelling inside her chest until it felt like fire. I will." "Very good," the figure whispered, and suddenly, the forest shuddered, shadows swirling like smoke. "Now your heart. What will you sacrifice?" With every breath, emotions choked her. Would she even survive this? The love she held for her mother squeezed at her heart like a vice. "Mom," she gasped, feeling her resolve fray. "No. You cannot love two at once," it hissed. "Choose." Nora staggered, panic clawing at her throat. What if her sacrifice meant nothing? What if the price was too high? The whispers grew louder, drowning her thoughts, flickering visions of her mother's face twisting in agony. "Choose." The relentless sound of its voice boiled in her blood, the shadows danced closer, dark tendrils lapping at her soul. The cold seeped deeper, wrapping around her heart, but beneath that, a flicker of warmth ignited. Nora pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the ache and warmth of her love for her mother merging with a terrifying resolve. "Can I sacrifice my freedom?" she whispered, each word barely containing the quake of her voice. "Let me be free." The figure's eyes narrowed, a glimmer of interest sparking. "Freedom, you say? But is it truly yours to give?" Nora jolted, the idea crashing over her like ice water. Sacrificing her freedom could mean something more than she ever imagined. The shadows pulsed, waiting, hungry for her answer. Could she truly let go? Only then could she save her mother, but at what cost? What lay beyond that dark door? The choice hung heavy in the air, the forest closing in, waiting for her reply. "Be careful what you wish for, little girl," it warned, and the laughter returned, sharper, more insistent. And as the night whispered more secrets, Nora felt the looming darkness surge forward, and time slipped away. What awaited her? What more must she sacrifice? Nora's breath quickened as she faced the figure again, that grin stretching wider, threatening to swallow her whole. The darkness churned, swirling more fiercely as the shadows pressed in closer, alive with anticipation. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she knew the moment she turned her back, her mother's fate would be sealed. "Answer me." The figure growled, its voice echoing like the roar of distant thunder. "What will you give?" I'll give a part of myself," she uttered, feeling each word agonizingly claw its way out. "But it won't be my freedom. I can't." "Ah," it said, the twisted smile faltering for a heartbeat. "But freedom, dear Nora, isn't something you possess. It's merely a mirage. You live in chains already, don't you?" With each syllable, the shadows twisted tighter. Nora could almost feel the links of bondage wrapping around her limbs. She remembered how her father left, how her mother struggled, how each day was an empty echo of the last. She was trapped in a cycle of disappointment, helplessness lingering like mist around her. "No!" she shouted defiantly, shaking her head to clear the dread creeping into her mind. The memories held her, but they couldn't define her. "You don't get to decide my fate. I'll give you a memory. The worst one I have." Interesting, the figure leaned closer, a predator assessing its prey. "And which memory is that?" Her heart raced as the memories churned like a storm within her, each one laced with regret and sorrow. There it was, an image of her mother alone, tears streaming down her face, longing for something lost that could never return. It twisted like a knife in Nora's heart. That day, she breathed, her voice trembling. The last day I saw him. I thought I lost you too. A low cackle erupted from the figure, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. Then let us seal the deal, little girl. You'll finally rid yourself of those shackles. All you need to do is hold on to that pain for me. Your memories of your mother will know. She cried, stepping forward, her voice firm like steel. I won't lose her. I refuse to suffer in silence for your amusement. Something flickered in the figure's gaze, a touch of surprise perhaps. But it didn't last. The night grew darker around her, the air thick with taunting laughter. So be it. But know this, without sacrifice, there is no salvation. The shadows coiled tighter, and instantly, a stifling pressure filled Nora's chest. She gasped for breath, feeling the weight of the universe crashing down on her. The words tumbled unsaid as her mind raced with possibilities and consequences. Choose wisely, the figure hissed, anticipation pouring from its fanged smile. And be aware each second you hesitate brings your mother closer to the abyss. Nora's decision teetered on a razor's edge. Every second felt like an eternity, her heart pounding like a frantic drummer in the fading night. She glanced behind her, the trees whisper shifting, shadows danced sinister secrets against the ground beneath her feet. Suddenly, out of the depths, a voice broke the darkness. It was familiar, coaxing, Nora, please, help me, don't listen to it. The sound, weak and heartbreaking, forced her gaze to snap back, her breath hitching. Mom, she gasped, tears springing to her eyes. Is that really you? Make your choice, little girl. The figure swelled, its laugh echoing in her ears, suffocating her hope. Before it's too late, Nora felt the darkness encroach like a tide, visions of her mother bleeding into the shadows. Torn between sacrifice and salvation, she needed to act fast. But no matter her decision, it felt like there would be no escape from this web of despair. What would she leave behind? Would her choice save her mother or doom them both? Time is running out, it rasped, urgency laced like poison. And as the weight clawed at her spirit, she knew she had to decide now or lose everything she held dear. But which end of the knife would cut her deepest? The cold winds howled, pressing in, and dread filled Nora's heart. Whatever she chose, only one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same. What awaited her on the other side? The answer loomed, hidden beneath layers of darkness. The whispers grew louder, surrounding Nora like a swarm of angry hornets, swarming her mind with doubts and fears. She could feel the cold air tightening around her, the figure's grin widening as if it reveled in her turmoil. What will it be, Nora? It pressed, the sound dripping with malice. A memory or your mother? Can you weigh one against the other? No! She shouted, her voice breaking. The urging of the figure squeezed her heart like a vice. She staggered, glancing at the shadows that seemed to stretch beyond the trees, curling like dark serpents. Think wisely, it jeered, turning more monstrous as the darkness swirled. You can't hide from the truth. The voice echoed in her skull, making her thoughts spiral. What if this was all a game, a trap set to ensnare her in endless dread? In rapid flashes, memories flooded her mind. She envisioned her life, how each moment bled into the next, like watercolors running on canvas. Despair in her father's absence, the layered sadness in her mother's eyes. She had tried to find hope, to break free from the cycle that encased them. Your mother suffers, Nora. The figure's words were like icy fingers sliding down her spine. It's quite the spectacle, really a painful farewell lingering in the air as she calls out for you. She needs you, but not in the way you hope. Her cries grow weaker, like candles flickering in the night. Nora gasped, a new panic rising inside. Was it lying? Or was it revealing an undeniable truth? Stop! She shouted, shaking her head violently. You don't get to play with my heart. Then make a choice, it hissed, those crimson eyes locking onto hers. What will you sacrifice, your memories or your mother? Staring back into those eyes, she lost herself for a moment. The memories of her mother's laughter, of her warm hugs, invaded her thoughts. But they were intertwined with pain, each one drawing her deeper into the abyss the figure represented. The weight of her potential decision wanted to crush her spirit, but she pushed against that feeling with everything in her. No, I won't let you win. She screamed, pushing against the shadows that coiled around her. You won't take her from me. The figure laughed, a sound like nails on a chalkboard. Too late. Your indecision brings her closer to despair. Feel that? With its words, the shadows thickened, an unbearable weight pressing down on Nora's chest. She could feel the urgency pinching her heart, dragging her under. But a thought flickered like a dying flame in her mind. She had to confront the darkness, not just for her mother but for herself. Your time is running out, the figure crooned again, mocking her resolve. That's what you think? Nora shouted back. She gathered whatever strength she could muster and, for the first time since the encounter began, she took a step toward the figure. I won't bow to your fear. You want pain? I'll show you pain. The shadows howled, swirling chaotically in response to her resistance. The figure seemed momentarily stunned, its grin wavering as Nora clenched her fists, her heart pounding against her ribs. She wasn't just a victim here, she had power. Then she heard the voice of her mother again, a mere whisper floating through the chaos, Nora, save me, no. She cried, hot tears sliding down her cheeks. I won't let your fear take away our love. As she stood her ground, fighting the shadows enveloping her, the darkness recoiled, the figure's expression transforming into a mask of rage. You think you can defy me? You believe you can save her by refusing to choose? How naive. The air crackled with tension, and Nora focused on the bond between her and her mother, the fire burning deep within her. If she could channel that energy, perhaps she could break the chains binding them both, but with that thought, she felt something shatter an unseen barrier between them. The figure's expression distorted with fury. You have awakened something terrible, girl. This won't end well. Before she could grasp what was happening, a surge of energy pulsed through her, light pouring from her heart as if fueled by a desperate hope. Would it be enough to defeat the darkness? Or had she unlocked a new horror altogether? As the figure screamed, the shadows twisted violently, blending into a wailing storm. Nora braced herself against the chaos, knowing whatever came next could shatter her world. What had she unleashed in her defiance, and was she truly ready for whatever horror awaited her? The darkness trembled with potential, and she could only wait for the storm to come crashing down. The storm unleashed its fury in a cacophony of screams and wails, ripping through the air like jagged lightning. Nora felt her heart race as shadows clawed at her resolve. She pressed her palms against her ears, trying to drown out the chaos, but it seeped into her very bones. The energy she had unleashed roared like a wild beast, fighting to reclaim its darkness, and she stood in the eye of that storm, trembling. Your love can't save her. The figure screamed, its voice shifting into a low growl, dripping with venom. True darkness awaits. Nora's breath hitched, and doubt began to creep in. What if she had made a terrible mistake? But fierce determination ignited her soul. I can't let you take her. She shouted, reaching into the depths of her memory for the warmth of her mother's embrace, the comfort of her laughter echoing like a distant melody. With a sudden surge, she grasped the light within her and pushed it outwards, forcing back the shadows. The figure roiled, twisting as light broke through, illuminating the darkness in stark contrast. Whispers turned to howls, but she couldn't waver now. I won't give in to you. The shadows screamed as they recoiled from her brilliance, dissipating like smoke in an open flame. But the figure lunged forward, now enormous, a nightmare forged in her doubts. You think you're brave? What do you know of sacrifice? It lunged, its claws aimed straight for her heart. Nora dove sideways, feeling the wind of its passage rush against her skin. She scrambled to find her footing, blood thundering in her ears. The ground beneath her trembled as the sinister laughter twisted the air around her. Face it, Nora. You cannot escape your fate. Blend in darkness, it suits you. Her skin prickled with fear, and panic rose like bile in her throat. But then she remembered each painful tear shed, every moment of despair had crafted her strength. No, you won't win. She gritted her teeth, steadying her breath, letting the light's warmth surge around her. It pulsed, brightening the space as the shadows began to falter, but the figure grasped at her doubt, clawing through her courage. You think love can conquer all? It's a weakness, and weakness leads to pain. The sorrowful cry of her mother echoed again, like a distant bell. Nora, help me stop. She yelled, fighting the sorrow threatening to pull her under. I won't let you use her against me. With renewed strength, she circled her arms outward, gathering all the love she had for her mother, fueling the light inside her. The shadows writhed, flickering like dying embers. Breathless, she hurled that light at the figure, and it cracked like thunder, erupting in a blinding blast, but the figure flinched, then reformed, eyes blazing with fury, its grin sharp and predatory. You, my dear, just awakened the worst of me. An earthquake rocked the ground, and a fissure opened beneath her feet. Nora's heart plummeted. Would it swallow her whole? In that moment, the figure coiled its shadowy form, preparing to strike. What will you sacrifice now? It taunted, and the world quieted, leaving just her pounding heartbeat. Nora felt time freeze. Every choice weighed on her. At that moment, the shadows surged, threatening to consume her. Would she hold on to hope? Or let despair pull her down? No more. She screamed, feeling the resolve hardening in her chest. You won't have my mother or my memories. Just then, a flash lit the void. It was too bright, too intense, a portal of blinding light. The figure screeched, caught between two worlds, power surging as it struggled to hold its ground against the brilliance. But what was this light? Was it salvation or a new horror? Nora took a breath, her very essence trembled with uncertainty. Could she step through and rescue her mother, leaving the darkness behind? Or would she condemn everyone she loved? The choice loomed above her like a guillotine, and the figure's laughter now tasted more like a death knell. What path would she choose? In the depth of that moment, Nora felt the shadows lurking, ready to reclaim her. But one truth rang clear. Every darkness is met with light. And she had to act before it was too late. Nora stood, trembling, as light enveloped her. It pulsed in sync with the rhythm of her heart, illuminating the oppressive shadows around her. The darkness felt tangible, eager to consume everything it could touch. But as long as she held on to her love, she could fight. Mom, she whispered, desperation threading through her voice. The plea echoed, mingling with the stillness, reaching toward the unseen. The ground shifted beneath her as the chaotic shadows twisted, the laughter still echoing in whispers that curled around her thoughts. Face your fear. The figure roared, its form flickering with agitation, dark tendrils reaching out like grasping claws. You cannot save her alone. Nora clenched her fists, her heart racing faster than ever. They wanted her to submit, to give up hope. But from deep within, she felt a fierce light radiate, a flame kindled by memories of moments she cherished with her mom, the sound of her laughter, the warmth of her hugs, the way she made even the darkest days brighter. I refuse to let you take her from me. You'll never win. She cried, voice breaking the suffocating silence. The shadows recoiled, surprised by her defiance. Bulwarks of light erupted into the darkness, throwing the twisted figure backward with a roar. Nora surged forward, propelled by love and the need for unyielding truth. Mom! I'm coming for you. With each determined step, the shadows writhed around her, but she thrust her light outward, illuminating the path forward, shattering their hold. The memories she clung to brightened her resolve, driving away despair. She reached the figure, and before it could react, she called forth every ounce of love she had, her freedom converging upon this moment like fiery thread stitching her fate. This you think it's your power? No. It's mine. I choose love over fear. I choose life. With that declaration, a radiant wave erupted from her being, cascading over the figure's form. An explosion of light engulfed the shadow, drowning out its sinister whisper. The laughter turned to desperate cries, breaks apart like glass, shattering into echoes that faded. In the wake of that light, the twisted reality around her began to unravel. Shadows fled, retreating into the trees, wailing in horror. A warmth enveloped Nora, almost like a soft embrace. Her mother's voice whispered in her heart, soothing and kind. The darkness receded, revealing a narrow swath of moonlight that illuminated her path forward. Nora could barely breathe as she pressed through the shimmering barrier into a clearing, her body trembling with both fear and newfound hope. Then she saw her mother, standing at the edge of the light. Eyes wide with recognition and disbelief, lips trembling as if they had spoken her name 1,000 times. Nora! The voice, familiar yet fragile, shot through the air and struck her heart with fierce tenderness. Mom! She ran, arms wrapping around her mother in a bare hug of love. Together, they enclosed themselves in the warmth of that embrace, a cocoon shielding them from the dark forces that once threatened to tear them apart. Everything felt different as they stood under the light, the trees swaying softly and embracing the new dawn that broke with the horizon. It was a promise no longer haunted by fears, weighed down by past sorrows. They breathed in the moment, the stillness surrounding them, just as twilight chewed at its edges. I thought I lost you, Nora murmured, tears wetting her cheeks. You never could. Not to that darkness, her mother replied, opening her eyes wider, filled with warmth. You fought. I had to, Nora stammered, still shaken but filled with a grander sense of purpose. It wanted to take you. To control me, that's how it serves through fear, her mother said gently, cupping Nora's cheeks, eyes searching her own. But together, there is nothing we can't face. As they turned together toward the towering trees, they realized that the haunting laughter had faded, leaving behind only faint echoes. The chill of the night had lifted, and the memories were theirs untouched, untarnished. It was a new beginning, an opportunity to heal, to rediscover each other amidst the struggles of life. They took a step forward, hand in hand, knowing the shadows had retreated, leaving them resilient, unbroken. Together, they exited the haunted woods, the past dissipating into the dawn. And though the journey might not be easy, after all they had faced together, they were ready for anything. Now, as the sun rose above the treetops, casting a golden glow across the landscape, Nora felt hope blossom. She turned to her mother, a smile cutting through the fatigue of their ordeal. Let us go home. Moments flew, the reflections of uncertainty now cast aside like autumn leaves in a breeze. They moved toward the tower, a symbol of strength and survival, each step resonating with purpose, a promise to keep walking forward. Nora realized, standing under the bright sky, that she had truly faced the darkness and emerged whole. And together, they would continue to conquer every doubt and every fear life threatened to throw at them. So, if you're feeling even a fraction of this journey, it's time to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will stir your heart and mind. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the light. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments with your reactions and theories. Let's keep the conversation going together. We can lift each other up.